Imagine for a second that you are a car manufacturer and that you've just released a brand new model. Imagine then that you go on to sell one example of that model every 3 minutes of every day for the next 4 years. What you'd end up with is a sales figure of around 750,000 and an idea that that model is rather successful. Almost unbelievably, those are the figures that the 2008 has achieved. Since 2013, Peugeot's compact SUV has sold 760,000 units around the world. Not bad for a not entry-level car, but also proof of how much the world loves a decent SUV, even a small one. With that history under its fan belt, Peugeot have decided to refresh the 2008. There are things you can point to that are quite obviously different, like the redesigned front end and the new taillights. There are other things you can point to that are nice touches, like the gloss black extras on our GT Line Spec test car. But the difference between the old 2008 and the new one is more than the sum of those parts might suggest. We had a 2008 as part of our long-term test fleet in 2015, so it's a car with which we're quite familiar, and the update has definitely resulted in a change of attitude. It now has less of a compact crossover feel and looks more like the SUV it's supposed to be. The 17-inch wheels aren't exactly off-road friendly, but the stepped roofline and the front and rear scuff guards suggest that it wouldn't be completely out of its depth in the bush. It's even got tech to back that up. The all-grip system has got different modes that deliver torque in various ways to the front wheels only, because there's no all-wheel drive. But as clever a system as it is undone slightly by something a little bit more basic. The ground clearance, which in here is just 165mm. Not a great figure for a car that wants to be an SUV, and one that's very low compared to the 2008's competition. The Hyundai Creta and Suzuki Vitara both stand taller than this car. That said, those cars are about as likely to take on serious dirt as this one, which is to say it's very unlikely that ground clearance will be a serious consideration. Of more importance is how the 2008 does around town, and in that respect it is well sorted, thanks largely to Peugeot dropping in their 1.2-litre turbo motor in here. 81 kilowatts, 205 newton meters, and a setup that always feels eager. The GT Line Spec test car also gets a brand new 6-speed automatic gearbox. It's not always as enthusiastic as the motor, but it's responsive enough and does a good job of swapping cogs smoothly. Another part of the 2008's enjoyment factor is its confident ride setup and its tiny steering wheel. Designed primarily to allow the driver to see the instrumentation clearly over the top of it, it adds a good dose of driver involvement together with the good steering. The update includes some interior upgrades, and while at first glance it might look very similar to the previous version, there have been some very useful improvements. Things like the 7-inch touchscreen with a much better operating system, and depending on spec level, you get Apple CarPlay and SatNav as standard. Standard spec across the range includes cruise control as well as USB and Bluetooth audio. This top spec model gets dual zone climate control and rear park distance control as well as a red and black themed interior, which is quite dramatic. Rear space is decent and the boot is particularly impressive. Despite it being one of the shortest cars lengthwise in its class, it still manages to have good load space, coming in at 1,400 litres in total, and it includes a full-size spare wheel. The interior is also where you'll find its, well, I wouldn't say shortcomings, but they are definitely things you have to get used to. Things like the cubbyhole, which is still uselessly small, and then the cup holders, which are neither very generous nor very well located. And then all these gloss black and chrome finishes, which look very nice, but they are highly reflective, and that means you'll spend at least some part of your drive trying to avoid getting an eyeball full of very bright sunlight. If there's one shortcoming of the 2008, it's the convenience. It's not a horrible experience, but it seems to forego some ease of use that you'd take for granted in this class. Complaining about cup holders and highly reflective surfaces may seem a bit picky, but in reality, those are the things that affect the overall enjoyment in here, because they're things that form part of an everyday drive. those definitely aren't good enough reasons to avoid the 2008, and it definitely has more reasons to consider it. Things like the great engine, comfortable ride setup, and the decent spec and space. And even though it is priced a little on the high side, it still offers good value. One of the highlights in the new 2008 is its 1.2-litre turbo motor, which offers an eager power delivery almost regardless of the driving situation. It's helped by a new 6-speed automatic gearbox. While the convenience isn't quite on par with its competition, the Peugeot SUV still offers a comfortable and well-spec'd space with good value as part of the package.